Alright, welcome back. Today we are working on some CSS Grid Basic columns. So as usual, I have my test doc set up here and I'm just going to paste in some basic divs that I prepared earlier. Alright, so our basic divs are within a grid wrap, and then we have div class C1 to 5, and currently they're displayed like this because they're divs, obviously, so they'll be div block displayed. So we're going to use display grid on this grid wrap to show these items as a grid. So I'll just paste in the CSS for this, and then I will explain it all, hopefully, and fix up the indenting. We have grid wrap, and then within our grid wrap, we'll just save so what that looks like. So we have display grid, which gets all of the items within this grid area here to display within a grid. Then we're going to set up our grid template columns to 33%. So these are each 33% width, these divs. And then our template rows are 50 pixels and 50 pixels. I'm not sure what the template row does actually. Let's just check. So apparently the template rows defines the line names and track sizing functions of the grid rows. Fair enough. That sets out the 50 pixels in between the rows. Reload that, reload. There, you can see the extra gap there. So we've got 50 pixels. I'll just load up DevTools for a sec so we can see what these are doing. There you go. So now we've got our grid, and you can see that it's got 50 and 50 on the grid rows. And it's got font size 22. Yep. Now a grid column gap it's ignoring, and grid row gap it's ignoring. So we don't need these because we have below this the grid gap, which overrides both of these because it's shorthand for the other two. So if you wanted to, you could use a column gap separately and a row gap separately. But the grid gap, you can just go 10 and 10. So you want 10 here and 10 here. That must set up the size of the divs. See how they're 50 pixels high? So it must set them to 50 pixels min height maybe. Anyway, that's it. That's pretty much the whole thing. That's a CSS grid and a grid wrap. So let's see if I've got any other notes about this. I just had some extra colors so you can see how they all went. You can color our grid and it looks all nice and colorful. And what happens to this grid as we resize is it just fits the whole screen size. Anyway, that's the basics of CSS Grid for now. And with template columns, so if we wanted to set this size to, this column here to a bit smaller than the other one, we could set this one to 23, and we'll see what it does. So now we've got 23, 33, 33. So obviously you want it to add up to 100 if you can. So then we can add 10 to this one to 43, reload that. So then this goes 23 and then 43 and 33 again. So if you wanted to do that, you could also do that. That's pretty much it. Anyway, thanks for watching. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.